Hello, Hellions, Hellhounds, and the Haunted. It's time to get our horror on. Welcome to your weekly dose of horror news and fun. This is episode 18 of TerrorVision Horror Podcast. I'm your host, Dan McGuinness, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Jennifer the Dream Warrior Strand. Together, we are two people with a love of horror and feel the burn of our obsolete Blockbuster memberships. You can catch us weekly on all major podcasting services and on the YouTube. But I want to know, Jennifer, how's your week been?
It's been pretty good. I hung out with my mother. Yeah, it's been good. I can't remember what I did Monday through Friday, but I hung out with my mum and my sort of racist 85-year-old grandma, which was pretty funny, but also highly inappropriate.
Is she olden time racism, like they talk about in Clerks 2?
Yes, pretty much. And look, she's 85. She can't hear anything. I know we shouldn't make excuses for people, but she's 85. She doesn't know. She has no idea. She never leaves her house. She doesn't interact with people. She doesn't know these things.
Is she actually racist? Like, she blames stuff on races of people that doesn't make any sense?
No, nothing like that. It's just like the little racial slurs that your grandparents throw out, and you kind of side glance them and think,
yeah.
That's so. No, in no way is she anti everyone. She's just of a different generation.
Yeah, no excuse. That's gross.
It is gross, but yeah, I know. But I got to see my mum, which is pretty cool. I don't get to see her very often, so any time to hang out with my mum is a great time. We ate lasagna. She made me lasagna, which was great.
Oh, Garfield style.
Garfield style. Oh man, my mum's lasagna is the best.
Oh.
Yeah, and aside from that, I grabbed Tony Hawk 1 and 2, so I have been playing that.
I have also been playing Tony Hawk's 1 and 2. What do you think about it?
I love it. I've created a skater. The skater's super gay. It kind of just looks like Ellen Page. And I'm like, oh no. Oh well, that's just how it is.
It's true.
It plays really well. It looks amazing. So, yeah, I cannot wait.
It's definitely an interesting vibe. It's fully going to bring like that Tony Hawk arcadey weird style to a new generation, I reckon. Well, a generation that doesn't have it, where they had to grow up with like skate and stuff like that, which is all super technical and super realistic. Well, Tony Hawk's is just like a jam that you get to just go in, have fun, listen to wicked tunes, do ridiculous tricks, and it's just a good game. Like I think we're reviewing it on Hack the Diner this week, and it's just like, well, I know I am.
Fantastic.
And it's yeah. The only thing I don't like about it is the character creation's pretty limited, and you can put on your character every tattoo that's ever known to man. Yet there's no option to put glasses on them.
Yeah, I was a bit bummed out, but also I couldn't make my skater, or at least I missed it. I couldn't make my skater slightly chubby because I feel that it's a bit of a lie, me skating around being all thin and gay looking when that's not the reality at all. No.
Because it's like there is only one, body weight. There's only kind of the chiseled looking dude. You know what I mean? Like there's not enough options for my character looks like me from behind, which is okay because most of it you see is just you're behind. But it seems one of my biggest character things that I've got is my glasses, and without my glasses, it just doesn't look like me. If you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I totally get that, but
yeah.
No, it's fun, and it just reminds me of all the cool music I used to listen to back in the day, just skating around in Tony Hawk. So it's been really good. So I probably will be doing that as soon as we're done here, even though I do have a butt ton of work that I need to do.
Yeah, same here. I just want to play Tony Hawk's. Apart from that, it was Father's Day this weekend, and I've just had a baby, so I got to be a Father's Day. It was pretty good. My wife was just like, "What do you want to do?" And I didn't really think about it. And then I'm like, "Hang on, I can do whatever I want." And what I ended up doing was just working in the shed for half the day, and then the end half of the day, I'm like, I want to go to the city and just walk around.
Yeah. And I mean, you did a pretty big dad thing. I'm just going to be in the shed if anyone needs me. That seems like a dad thing.
Yeah, but when we go shopping, it's usually Claire has an agenda and that, but I just got to just do whatever I wanted. So we just looked at shops and video games and, just crap boring stuff for her. She was fun.
That sounds like fun.
I enjoyed it a lot. And I bought and she bought me a Beastie Boy record as well.
Oh, cool. Which one?
The Paul's Boutique.
Oh, cool.
Anyhow,
Very good.
let's move on to the homework. So every week, Jennifer and I set ourselves 3 horror movies to watch, and then we review them together the following week. We have our legendary TerrorVision horror podcast scoring system, which I'm just going to quickly go over. So starting from the top, as the best rating is A for awesome, that everyone should watch. B for beer and chicken wings group movie. F for fun and dumb. C for a classic that's worth a watch. G, good for its time, but it hasn't really held up. J is a Jennifer special. D is a Dan special, meaning like the films that only we us two can love. W is like whatever, doesn't really matter. Doesn't even come off my radar. S is this is shit, avoid, and the double F is the fucking fucked one. Now,
yes, I'd like to point out that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Next Generation helped us to develop that last one.
The fucking fucked. Now, I have created sound effects for each of these for when we score them. Jennifer, unfortunately, will not be able to hear them, but she will on the playback. But that's okay. So we'll see how that goes. If it doesn't work, we'll just deal with it. But first, we get to gush. We get to gush straight away. Our first film. We should have put this as our last one we were talking about.
Honestly, yeah. Because I kind of wanted to burn through the other two just to get to this one. But this is even better. We get to talk about it first up.
Straight away. We watch Cabin in the Woods from 2011. Director Drew Goddard. He's actually a writer as well. So he's done. So this was his first directing. So he and I'm pretty sure he co-wrote this with Joss Whedon as well. So he wrote this one, Cabin in the Woods, but he's also been the writer on like World War Z, Cloverfield, The Martian, and a whole bunch of other stuff. But this, like, he's not really much of a director, but he's proven to me that he's a director. And,
right.
And starring good old Crims. Chris Hemsworth, the old Australian actor who's now Thor, but we know him from Home and Away as some meat chunk of a man.
I mean, I know he's in the show, but I couldn't tell you who or when.
He's just like male, like, Australian male number 2 or something like that.
Standard Australian beefcake.
Yeah, beef.
Blonde haired, blue-eyed.
Well, there's a million Hemsworths out there. Like every time I think I know there's all the Hemsworth, another one appears. Like
they're kind of like the Baldwins.
Yeah, or like maybe if they get wet, they multiply like a gremlin. And because he was on Home and Away, I assume he did a lot of surfing, and that's probably why there's so many Hemsworths.
That's pretty much, yeah.
Anyway,
I agree.
Do you want to quickly do the synopsis of this one?
Yes. So, you think you know the story. 5 college friends spend the weekend at a remote cabin in the woods where they get more than they bargained for. Together, they must discover the truth behind the cabin in the woods.
Gonna throw that out there. That's not really what the film's about, hey?
No, but this film is just something like absolutely, completely different, fucking bonkers off the wall that you would have just ruined.
Yeah,
just by saying like what it is. Like, no, this synopsis is perfect for marketing because it doesn't give it away.
That is true. So basically, this film is without like trying to. We're going to talk about it. We might not like say exact points, but we'll just say that like, stuff happens, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But this film is like a study on all films. Did you always find that? Like
it is. It's like a homage to everything.
Yeah,
horror.
Everything horror. I mean, at the moment, Joss Whedon is not really in the good books in life and stuff, from being a dickhead and stuff, and it's been a dickhead actually. But this guy's co-writer, so we can't put that against him. At one stage, Joss Whedon was hot shit and everyone loved him, and like Firefly and all that kind of stuff. But so straight up, first thing I want to talk about this film is the opening of the film. Which is, I love that opening. So, if you can imagine it, it's just 2 dudes. They're in like some sort of a building complex. They're just in suits. They look like office dudes, and they're just having a most boring conversation about like what they did on the weekend, their wives and stuff like that. Just cruising along, and it's the actor from The West Wing. I can't remember what his name is right now. It's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone from me. Anyhow, they're cruising along, and you're just like, "What is this?" And it goes through a fair while, and then suddenly, just the words "cabin in the woods" just gets slammed in big red letters on the screen with like a scream for no reason, and
it's perfect.
It is, and you can. We've got here in our notes that like they deliberately. Like the writers, Goddard and Whedon, deliberately put that scene in to confuse people that when they came into the cinema, they wanted to make them think that they'd walked into the wrong film if they like came in late. And I'm like, oh my god.
Well, I remember seeing it in the cinema, and I remember being there, and I was with my friend, and we kind of did that little side glance, and then it just shot up onto the screen, and I'd say 60% of the cinema shit their pants at that point.
I laughed. I remember laughing because I had advance tickets to this, and I just remember when that came up, it just set the tone. The whole film, the whole film's tone, like the film necessarily isn't like a pure comedy, like an Evil Dead horror comedy. It's still got very funny, but it really set that tone of like, this is a tongue-in-cheek thing. This is like a nod to horror, a handshake to horror, and it really is. So it goes from there, and it as it said, it's about like, basically, it's about. Well, I'm just gonna. Should we just say what it's about? Like,
just go for it. I mean, look, you knew we were doing this for homework, people. It's also been out for almost 10 years. If you haven't seen it by now,
yeah, that is true. So basically, in this film, the story is that there are these like elder gods that need a sacrifice of 5 people. And this is in modern times, so the government knows about this, and so they develop, and the people have to be sacrificed in a certain way. So there has to be like the stereotypical horror trope. So there has to be like a dumb slut who dies first. There has to be the meathead jock. There has to be the nerd, and then the final girl. There's the option of whether she can survive or die. It doesn't matter as long as she suffers, which is like basically, just all horror films. So that's the elder god's condition with the government, that they have to create this scenario, except they can't just be forced into it. They have to do it by their own choosing as a thing. So it's about a government agency that sets up scenarios to create these moments so these elder gods don't come and destroy our world. And then you realize from that every horror film you've ever watched is different. It's called The Ritual, are different years' rituals, basically. So it kind of ruins every other horror movie you've ever seen in a weird way. Like it goes like, the whole reason these rules are within horror is because these are actual things that had to happen to prolong the existence of humans, and the government orchestrates it, and they put together, they get all the cursed objects in the world, they put them in one room. So the whole point is that these groups of teenagers, they have to be teenagers as well, because it has to be the young has to suffer, have to choose themselves the way that they're going to die. So they set up a whole room of cursed objects, like examples of stuff like the Necronomicon, or the Hellraiser box, or just like any other thing like that.
The magic conch.
Yeah, just anything. Like anything to do with horror, they set it up, and so that the people choose, and then they use a whole bunch of elaborate ways to make the people into these characters. So like the girl in it isn't necessarily a dumb person, but they sabotage her hair dye to make her dumber. They put in all horror movies, there's mist and smoke that is actually libido enhancers and shit like that. It's fucking genius. When you're watching it, you're just like, this is so fun and so good.
So it's good to note that the film is basically set. There's 2 stories to this film. So there is the 2 guys that we were talking about. So Richard Jenkins and Bradley Whitford. So they're the 2 guys that we're talking about at the very beginning of the film. And it's them orchestrating this scenario from behind the scenes. And then, of course, the other story is the kids that go to the cabin in the woods.
Yeah.
So, while all this is happening on one end, it then cuts to these kids, and they're talking about, their cousins just bought a cabin and they're going down there for the weekend. It's going to be hella fun. They're going to drink and have sex and the standard horror movie tropes that any film has. So that's what's happening simultaneously. And then it sort of joins together.
Yeah, and it's all orchestrated, though, all this stuff by this government organization, which is like super secret. And I love it that it's just like a really like normal government organization. Like they have a voting pool to see, you know, like to see what they choose.
I love that moment.
Yeah, so that they write up all the things on, and there's a whiteboard moment where it's got all the things written on the whiteboard, and there's all stuff like, you know, like zombies, deadites, you know, all the possible options that they could choose that's going to come and get them. And then because of the main character, he's always wanted to see the merman.
The
merman attack. So he's always bets on. It's an office pool, so they all come together, and he puts always money on merman, and merman never turns up, and it's just like hilarious
every time.
And then just seeing that whiteboard, and when you're pausing that, and you just see all the stuff on there, is amazing.
There's so much stuff on there, and then that whiteboard also comes into play later on towards the end of the film.
Does it?
Well, you know, when they're down. So once they get into the facility and all, like, everything is released. So you had a pre idea of what was to come and what was going to be released.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You're looking out for everything. They're like, oh, okay, well there's going to be this killer clown. Okay, yep, there it is. Oh, the tree. Yep, tree's there. Like, getting the guy.
Cursed families, werewolves, everything are on there. You know, like just everything that could be in a film is on this whiteboard, is scribbled on there. And then next to it is like what department, like maintenance, has chosen this, like, you know, monster. Amazing. Such a good vibe. And you're saying as well that there's like there's a Kevin written on the whiteboard.
Yeah, so everyone, when the film came out, everyone was like, okay, well, what's Kevin? And like, what, you know, we kind of wish that we got to see what a Kevin was. And it turns out that Kevin was a reference to Elijah Wood's character from Sin City.
Yeah.
So, you know, that really creepy little skinny guy that didn't talk and
even when he's
anime glasses on.
And even when his like arms and legs are getting cut off, he still just sits there silently, like content.
Still had that smirk.
Oh man. So yeah, so yeah, they do all the stuff like the pheromone mist. They start like you know. And what makes it weird as well is that all other countries in the world are also doing this same initiative. So Japan's doing it, Germany, Stockholm or whatever. They're all trying to do it. So it's whoever does it first, and then they'll probably just, it doesn't matter. As long as one of the countries does this, we don't get killed by these elder gods. And I really love when it keeps cutting to Asia and showing like the Asian one is like a grudge ring girl that's attacking a bunch of schoolgirls. And then at the end when it's like, It shows that they fail, and it's like the school
guy.
They turn the ghost girl into like a little frog, like all cheer, and then
because it's been like everyone has failed, so all these other countries have failed, so it's now up to America, and it's just like Richard Jenkins screaming. Now, of those of you who don't know who Richard Jenkins is, if you've seen Step Brothers, he's the dad. In Step Brothers. So he's basically like screaming at this TV like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
Yeah, he's basically yelling fuck you at a bunch of like 12-year-old Asian schoolgirls. It's so good.
How hard is it to kill a bunch of 9-year-olds? Like, you know, it's just all these little moments that aren't meant to be funny just end up being so funny. I love it. I love it. And so it's really good to sort of. So we've talked about those guys, but it's kind of good for us to chat about the other characters. So the kids that are going to the cabin. Yeah,
so it's weird because you got like the main character is a girl, so she's like the final girl kind of. There's not much to talk about them as much. I really enjoyed the stoner dude because there has to be a fool as one of the sacrifices. Yeah. I thought he was kind of cool. His character, I liked him as the stoner, you know, the stereotypical stoner guy. He has that crazy bong when he rocks up.
Yeah, he's got a bong mug, which is fully functional. It cost $5,000 to make. I do want one.
Yes.
I actually had to Google Buff Fran Krantz. So Fran Krantz is the guy that plays him, because the whole way through the film, even when they're at the swimming hole, he was still in his attire. Like, he had several layers of clothing on. And the reason for that was, at that point, he was so in shape he was buffer than old mate Hemsy.
He didn't look right for the part, because I noticed they put him in like Kurt Cobain cardigans and they make him like slouch over as if he's like a Shaggy. He's supposed to be like Shaggy from Scooby Doo, basically.
Pretty much. He's wearing like 4 layers of clothing because they were trying to hide the fact that he was like buff as shit. So about halfway, like at that point, you know, I'm like, oh no, there's no way he's buffer than Chris Hemsworth. And I was like Googling buff Fran Kranz shirtless. And I'm like, oh, he's pretty buff.
He is. He's nailed it. Yeah. And he's got a great stoner voice. Like, he actually sounds like that, yo, dude, why? You know what I mean? Like that stone. Yeah. He's got all the stoner theories. But the thing that makes it hilarious is he is dead on correct about the whole everything. Which I thought was amazing. So he's like, the puppet strings, man, like, there's something not right about this. Like, why? Because, like, his friends that he's known his whole life, who are usually academics or really nice, suddenly start acting like this stereotypical, like you know, like, floozy girl and the jock meathead, and they're fully not like that in real life. And he's like, what's going on? Like, why are they, like, changing? And it's glorious.
There's one point as well where one of the characters down in the office area is talking about, well, he's figured it out because all this shit that he's smoking has just made him completely immune to everything that we were trying to do to him.
Yeah. Yeah, because the weed saves the day.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. I really liked as well, like, Chris Hemsworth's death scene. I thought it was quite brutal. Like, he did
such a good thing.
Yeah, because this is a whole orchestrated event, it's even got, like, the cabin in the woods has a force field around it so they can't get out, like, you know, technology that doesn't exist. So he tries to jump over this ravine to try and get out, not knowing that there's this invisible force field. So you just see a grown man jump a bike across a ravine and at full flight, like, smash straight into this invisible wall and, like, just turn into this limp body and fall down this cliff. And I remember seeing that in the film, and you know what's going to happen, but you're still just like, oh shit.
But I think what makes that scene so much better and like more hilarious is the fact that he's like, right, I'm going to jump this ravine, and when I do, I'm going to bring the army, the navy, I'm going to bring every fucking person back here. And then she says something to him like, oh, you know, give it all you got. And he's like, I always do. And then fucking smashes into this force field, and it's just like, dunk.
Yeah.
Dunk.
Yeah, you see him falling down, like hitting the force field as he goes down. Oh.
Just into this abyss, and you just, it was so funny. And even watching it like last night, because we watched it again for the show, and I laughed my ass off again. I just think it's funny.
Yeah, every part of the film's good, because I mean they're tongue-in-cheek versions of themselves, but they're changing. So there's so much going on in this film, and then because it does feel though, I actually think the pacing of this film was affected by this story. I feel it felt weird, like. You find it's like watching 2 films in one. So you get the whole cabin in the woods scene, and then you get the bureaucracy of the government organization which is running this thing, and they're so polar opposites to each other that it actually there is no like. Does it feel like there's a proper like 3 acts in this film? It feels like there's 4 acts. It's really weird.
Yeah, well, because so you've got the very beginning of the film, so you set up the guys who are working in this thing, then you set up the kids who are going to this location, and the 2 don't sort of mesh until then you've got that Malachi guy on the phone who's called up and they're like taking the piss out of him over the phone.
Man, that's funny.
Because he's just like, oh, the lambs are heading towards the slaughter. Wait, do you have me on speakerphone?
Yeah.
How rude. That's so rude. And they're just like,
he's like some old school horror dude trying to monologue, and they're just pissing themselves laughing on the other end. Like, and the lambs will be. And I like that they mention him later. Like, the whole point is that he has to be in there. He is part of the ritual. They have to choose to ignore his warnings as part of it. Like, fuck gods are fickle bastards, aren't they?
They really are. So there's that. So there's the pre-kids, there's the kids, there's the cabin, there's the fucking terrible, crazy redneck zombies. And
that's what they get. So they choose this redneck zombies kind of thing. Yeah.
Then there's a massacre. Then they're down. So they all start dying off, obviously, as they do. Now the key is to think that when the young stoner dies, can't remember his name off the top of my head. Marty. When Marty dies, you don't see his death. So when they pull the lever to indicate that there is another sacrifice, there's an earthquake because he hasn't died.
Yeah, they basically... it stuffs up, basically.
Yeah. So he basically falls into the coffin with one of the redneck zombies. He actually completely dismembers it and comes back out and saves Kristen Connolly's character. And they jump back into the coffin, which leads down to an elevator that's going to get them back into this facility. So then all of a sudden, the two worlds are combining, and now they're in the facility. Because
the facility is directly underneath the cabin, which you didn't know to that point. You just figured it was somewhere off scene, and suddenly you realise, they sent the zombies up from below, and so they used the elevator shaft that they sent the zombies up originally to... they get back down into the facility, which is like the stoner and the main girl. There's only two people left at the end. And I got to say, that elevator scene is one of my favourite scenes nearly in any film. I remember when that happened in the cinema. So it's basically they go into this Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, great glass elevator thing, and it can move sideways and stuff, and it starts going down. And you realise that they aren't elevators; they're actually like cages that are for all these other versions of the horrors other versions that they could have chosen. And you get these couple of shots that they go past other cages. So you see stuff like basically a Pinhead character, like a Hellraiser character, but instead of a puzzle box, he's got like a puzzle sphere. So everything is homaged in this. Or like, what were some of the other ones? Like a ballerina girl with no face, a mouth for a face.
There's the Strangers characters. So if you've seen the movie The Strangers, where it's just the people wearing the creepy doll masks.
Oh yeah, there's like a werewolf in that part as well. And so you realise, and that's when it's suddenly like your mind gets, like at that point my mind got blown a bit more. I was like, oh my God, am I going to get the opportunity to see more of these monsters? And then it suddenly does a shot where it zooms out from our elevator we're seeing, and you see it keeps zooming out, and you just see basically this gigantic wall of cages with every horror movie trope in it, like animated, like just, and it, like, the killer robot from like Deadly Friend and stuff like that, and not Deadly Friend, Chopping Mall. Everything, every horror movie thing, and you just have a bloody overload. You're just like, oh my fucking, this is the best.
Yes. And then, of course, once they get into the facility and the security guards start coming out trying to shoot at them, where else do they go but the control room?
And it's got a giant button that it says Purge.
Yes. Now, for those of you playing at home, Purge means they're going to release every fucking creature. So they're just standing there. There's all these, it's like a standoff. They're hiding behind this thing. There's a bunch of army guys. And then all of a sudden the elevator just dings. And it's just a fucking bloody feast of a massacre. And it's glorious.
Yeah, it may be one of the greatest carnage montages I've ever seen. Hey?
Oh, it was the best.
Because it's not only like, is it a carnage montage? It's a carnage montage with every horror trope. So you've got like clowns running around killing people. You've got ghosts. You've got everything. You've got comedy ones. You've got giant anacondas. You've got giant spiders. You've got everything. You've got killer families. You've got... Oh, it just goes on. And it's just this montage of this. And, of course, all the guards are just like... They just look like SWAT team dudes in, like, masks. So there's no personality to them. So it's just basically a massive excuse to see just, like 3 minutes of 3 or 5 minutes of just these scenes of just the most fun, ridiculous stupidity. There is a little bit too much CG in this film.
There is, yes. But I don't think you could get away with doing like 100% practical effects in a film like this. There's too many things going on.
They do a fair lot of practical effects. There's a unicorn that attacks people. That's just a horse that they've just stuck a thing on.
Oh. Okay, so then that leads me to the question, because I forgot about the unicorn. I remember the Evil Dead trees in there, I remember all these different things, but I forgot about the unicorn. So, that leads me to the question, what artifact do you think they would have picked up to get a unicorn?
I don't know, like what's the main thing? When you think of unicorn, what's an item you associate with a unicorn? It's kind of weird, like... Maybe like...
I know the people that I associate with unicorns. I don't know what I associate unicorns with. Like rainbows, maybe?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe like a rainbow box or something. Like You wouldn't do like a music box because that's obviously like, killer ballerinas and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe just like a cookie, like a
like
biscuit.
a My Little Pony, maybe.
Yeah, I got more of like a biscuit or something you'd eat. Maybe like a gobstopper. You eat a certain lolly and it comes.
Yeah, like a glittery, sugary snack.
Yeah, like a Wonka bar or something. But that's what it would bring like this. And there's a whole bunch of made up ones in there as well, which I really appreciate. So they just went ham. They went hard as a motherfucker on these scenes. And I can't. Like, I remember, like, as a horror fan, seeing that in the film, I remember thinking to myself, am I watching, like, one of the best things I've ever seen in my life? Like, the only other montage I think is better is, like, the brain dead ending. Like, and that's all practical effects, and that's why I love that one so much, and it goes for long. There's more blood and gore. It's almost like it feels like it goes too quick, that scene. I mean, it goes for ages, but, like, oh, God.
It does. Well, it's good to note as well that Heather Langenkamp, who plays Nancy in A Nightmare on Elm Street, actually serves as one of the members of the makeup crew because her husband is an SFX artist.
That's so cool. Like, so she's just been knee deep in this shit for her whole life, eh?
Yep, since 1984. Which is pretty damn good.
Came on the scene, and she's just blowing mine. But don't get me wrong, there are a lot of practical effects in this film, but it just so happens that there is a bunch of CG as well, like the big snake and stuff like that. I think it's the big snake that gives it away the most. Like, that big snake looked the worst. There is one other criticism I do have of this film is, out of all the things that got chosen, I actually found the zombie family kind of boring. Like, I was like, when it got the first time around watching it, or when they pick up that one, I was like, it could have been anything. You know what I mean? Like, it could have been like everyone remembers from this film the ballerina, like that girl with like she's got the mouth for a face and that's all she's got. I imagine that was like the first half of the film, and then the other half. I reckon that would have been made it stronger. But I feel they wanted to go the really basic thing to show that it was just like what it is.
That's right, because at the end of the day, it's not about the creatures. It's about the sacrifice. It's about the ritual. It's about the office guys trying to finalize the ritual. So I feel that if they'd have gone something, because they tease that Pinhead kind of character quite a lot, and that would have been really cool to see. But I think it would have been
too good.
Yeah, it would have been like too exciting.
Or taking away from the idea of what this film is overall, it would have I suppose that is true. I mean, the redneck zombie fan. I like that bit where like when they're doing the sweepstakes, and he's like, I should have won. I chose zombies. He goes, no, it was actually zombie rednecks, like specifically, not just zombies. And she's like, like I love all the office bureaucracy of it and stuff. Like when they halfway through that, when they think they've already won, and they start having the office party. And the main character's like, he starts to do like because we've just killed, they realise that, because they have to kill a whole bunch of innocent people every year. And he starts to do kind of a monologue about, the tragedy of it. And then a girl walks in with a bottle of tequila and he goes, tequila! Just stops like he's meaningful talk to yell out like, my drink's tequila here. And they have an office party. And I actually think that office party bit is one of the best scenes that like, when they're blowing off steam, they realise they saved the world, because you don't know how often they do this. You assume that it's not every year. It might be like every 5 years or something like that.
Possibly.
And then when he gets the red phone call rings, and it's like, the hot phone realising it's upper management is to tell them something, and that such a good. We've 100% spoiled this film. So if you haven't seen this, we should have done a spoiler at the start of this. I suppose we did say we're going to say it was about.
We can do a little disclaimer and everything as well, so that's fine. So I would like to talk about one of the scenes. So this was the scene that tested highest with the audience was the merman sequence.
Yes.
So for those of you who didn't or haven't seen the film. Yes, he talks a lot about a merman and wanting to see a merman, and he gets to see a merman in one of the best death sequences ever. So of course everything's falling apart. It's all the earthquakes and people are dying around them, and he He gets blown up. So one of the guys, the security guys, is being attacked by zombies, and he basically just pulls the pin on a grenade and blows himself up, which then in turn,
which was a really good explosion. I got to add, there was a lot of gore in that. Did you notice?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was really good. So then he's laying on the ground, he's like hurt and in pain, and he's just like, ugh, and then you just hear this sound. And he's like looking into this
mist.
It's this mist and haze of smoke, and all of a sudden you just see this merman come out, and he's just like, oh, fucking, God.
You gotta be fucking kidding me.
So, yes, he gets to see his merman, but it's at the detriment because it then eats his face off and blows the blood out of his blowhole.
And he's a pretty ugly-looking merman, eh?
It's hideous. It's a fucking hideous merman. It's merman.
Anyhow, we're not going to go into the what happens at the end of the film. So there's still... We haven't spoiled what happens at the end of this film. And we have, I told you, probably 3/4 of it. So if you haven't seen it, you still can watch it, and there's still stuff that happens. So I don't think we should go any more into it. I think we should leave all the cameos and whatever's about to happen for the people who do want to watch it. Is it you cool with that?
I'm definitely cool with that.
What did you... so I gave this an A for awesome. What did you give it?
Well, I gave it an ABC. So I gave this an A. Oh, I know. I went ham. So everybody should watch this film. It is also definitely a beer and chicken wing movie night kind of movie. And being that it's over a decade, well, almost a decade old, it is a classic that everyone should watch.
Well, I don't know what to do. I'm going to do my A sound for that. Which... just is the Final Fantasy winning tune, and I suppose I'll just do my my beer and chicken wing sound for yours. Kings of the bossy, pounding on brewskis, banging chicks right there in the sand. So yeah, that was yeah. I mean, I'm not going to go through all those sound effects, but there are a lot of things. I'll do the classic one as well. So you do a classic that everyone should watch. Which is, Jen can't hear that, but it's basically a dubstep version of Bark. Anyhow, let's move on to our second film, which doesn't have as many ratings. Second film that we watched this week was Nightbreed from 1990, directed by Clive Barker. I reckon we've now done all the Clive Barker films.
Yeah, probably.
Except for Hellraiser 1 and 2. As in the core ones.
We'll get there.
Directed by Clive Barker, who is one of my favourite novelists. He created Hellraiser, he created Lord of Illusions, and all stuff like that. They're the films he's actually directed. So, Nightbreed, based on the book Cabal, which I have read, which I have a funny story. I actually read that whilst I was working in a pornography shop. I read the whole book from back to cover, over a period of shifts from 10 p.m. till 4 in the morning. My shift was on Hindley Street. I worked at a place called The Box. So for people who know me and didn't know that, that's what I did for a while. And I read this book Cabal, which I loved the novel. So I got to admit, I don't think I had seen this film, but I'd always loved the novel. I reckon I just avoided it. And yeah, so getting into it. Synopsis, sure. Jen.
Okay. Come meet the dead of night. A troubled young man is drawn to a mythical place called Midian, where a variety of monsters are hiding from humanity.
Yep. Seems legit.
Pretty there. Full disclosure, I had watched this film late last year, and I didn't much care for it, and I thought, well, look, it might have just been a bad night. Wasn't into it. Was tired, so I definitely sat and gave it a good fair crack again.
Yeah, but
we'll get that.
Yeah. So the thing about this film is it's based on a novel, and I did the wrong thing. I read the novel first, so you're always going to be disappointed. You know that situation where you can't win against a novel. So straight away I was like, I know a lot of people in our Facebook group who heard that we were watching this. That I know a lot of them really love this film. So I'm not going to shit on it too much because I know it's a lot of people's favorite film. I don't think it's a bad film. I just think it suffers from doing too much in too short a time. So,
yes,
do you know what I mean?
I definitely agree with that.
So it doesn't really like it can't make all of its points, and it doesn't give you enough characterization of every character enough for you to connect with them and stuff like that. On the other hand, though, it does have one of the best serial killers ever in it.
Oh my god, I love it.
So there is the main character is a troubled person who has a psychiatrist called Dr. Decker, who is played by none other than David Cronenberg, which I didn't know David Cronenberg did any acting. Did you?
Yes, he does. He's kind of like David Lynch, in which he just sort of pops up in very weird and random things, and you just don't question it.
He did remind me a lot of Lynch. He also reminded me a lot of young Stephen King in this. But not Stephen King from like Maximum Overdrive Stephen King, like Stephen King from like Pet Sematary when he was in that. Like, he just reminded me of, for some reason, what he looked like. I don't know why. So David Cronenberg plays Dr. Decker, a psychiatrist who has a double life as a serial killer called, I don't know, they never mentioned his name in it, did they?
No, he might have a name, but at no point did they reference it.
Because in the book, the mask, he wears this amazing mask. It's this, I don't know what was made out of it. It's like a brown mask, and he's got buttons for eyes and a zip for a mouth, and that's all he's got. It is terrifying. Did you like the mask?
It's amazing. I loved the mask. Like, he was my favorite part of the film.
Yeah. He's just so good. In the novel, the mask has its own personality, and he talks to it, and it makes him do stuff, and it's got a name. So I skipped over that whole bit, which I actually found in the book with some of the most interesting stuff. If I remember, if I'm correct, this is only like 20 years ago. 20 years ago I read this novel. So if I've got some of the details wrong, don't shoot me. Just send me a Facebook message with anthrax on it or something.
Virtual anthrax.
So so this straight away, Cronenberg, best part of the film, the serial killer with the mask, he's great. And so he basically commits serial killer murders, and he uses his patients as he uses psychiatry on them to make them think that they have created the murders, and then they confess, and then they get arrested for the murders, and that's how he gets away with them. You don't really get that much in the book. Did you get that from it? Because that's what he does in the book a lot. Did you get that from the film?
That's what I got with him and Boone's character. So he was like, well, you got to come in because you're committing murders again. He's like, oh, but I didn't. I was home last night. He's like, psychosis, man. Yeah. You fucking shit up. Okay. And then of course he figures it out that he's being heavily drugged by him, so that he is the scapegoat. And then.
But at first he thinks he has murdered these people, so his life goes to shit.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
He has a girlfriend in it, who is very, very there's so much stuff happens fast in this film. You meet the girl. She basically is half the film is this girl. Basically it's Boone and this girl and the serial killer basically, and she just has no character development. Hey, she blindly just chases him, wanting him, even though he's a killer. There's no reason why she does most of the stuff she does. Did you feel that?
Yeah, she's just like, I'm sad, so I'm going to go find him.
Yeah, I need a man. Without this man, my life is nothing. Therefore, even if he has been a serial killer, I'll just follow him to the ends of the earth. Fuck off.
I mean, she's an adorable little puppet, but yeah, she's not really a memorable, I can't say I've seen her in anything else. I can't say that she was crazy good in this film. I really enjoyed the scene. And it's just a scene that did not even need to happen. She's at this club and she's singing a song. It was really cool. I'd go see that band for sure. But even then, that was okay. Why?
And it went for ages as well. They could have in films when they show too much of a band, they show a whole song. You don't want to see a whole song. You just want to see a tiny clip of the band singing a little bit of the song cut to a different scene. They showed the whole song, and I was like, oh, you're wasting time. This film was everywhere. The pacing was up the wazoo.
Oh, it's all over the place.
Sometimes, heaps of shit happens. So anyhow, he basically, Boone gets killed for, being a serial killer by the police. They've gunned him down. But before that happens, he goes to Midian. Midian?
Yes.
So there's this city that they keep on going on about called Midian, and they got a lot about it in the book. And then in the end, it's just a graveyard. So he goes to this graveyard. He gets bitten by this Nightbreed person, and but then he gets killed. But because he's been bitten by the Nightbreed person and then he dies, he becomes a Nightbreed person. And there's not really any explanation of what Nightbreed were. Did you find that?
Yeah, it was just monsters
They were just
living
together. They were just a cacophony of deformed people. Like, and some of them were
like a nightmarish Cirque du Soleil cast.
Yeah, they were so Circus Soleil. As if Circus Soleil were going to do a horror theme. So some of them were like, straight out of like Hellraiser, giant fat blobs that don't have arms or tortured souls and that. And then some of them were just like, had like red dreadlocks or a big face. It was very random. The Nightbreed, they were cool, but they didn't have enough consistency to themselves to be anything in particular. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I felt that like all the character designs were all really unique.
Yeah.
They all look like they were designed by the contestants of that Face Off TV show.
The people who made like Basket Case. They reminded me of the freaks from Basket Case as well.
Yeah. So it really, I don't want to say it was really badly done because they weren't. They were fantastic designs. They were all very well executed, but there was no sort of consistency in how they all looked. So there's no relation to these beings. They're not from a clan. They're not from a family.
And they're
just like a bundle of misfit monsters.
Yeah, they're misfit monsters who aren't evil. They just live under a graveyard in an underground city called Midian. They don't like humans. They don't associate with humans. They have got a whole bunch of rules and religious rules. They're not bad guys. They're just like trying to live their life. They realize if humans find them, they're going to fuck them over. So they just like have they don't deal with humans at all. But then Boone comes in, and he fucks everything up, really, if you ask me. They had their little thing going. But then, like, halfway through, it just turns into this massive, like, basically commentary on just, like gun-toting rednecks, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's all just about that very familiar message of, like, uneducated people that don't understand something, so they have to destroy it and get rid of it. Which so the rednecks will come and they want to kill. The police are fuckheads. Everyone's a dickhead.
Yes.
And so it's just that. So I got a very metaphorical vibe that it was like maybe how Clive Barker felt about like being gay and coming out of the closet when he was younger and stuff like that. Like how he felt like society might see him. It might not be that, but I got that kind of vibe from it. Like these were just like people trying to.
Very well be.
Yeah, people trying to run their lives. They just wanted to, get along. They realized people wouldn't understand them, and then when they did understand them, everything went to hell.
I completely understand that sort of scenario because coming out as gay today in like now it's a walk in the park for most people. But the late 80s, you had with the AIDS crisis, and then the 90s, and all this very staunch. Like men just being anti-gay and very pro-masculinity, and I can't think of the actual word for it. So being
misogynistic?
Gay back
then, no,
not misogynistic.
Yeah, like homophobic.
Like a lot of gay panic. So they're very homophobic back then. So it's completely understandable.
And so they represent that by these rednecks coming in and basically with guns, and the police coming in with them, and the government, and they just shoot all the Nightbreed people. But fortunately, the Nightbreed had an army of actual monsters, which made no sense. Like, monsters that have no humanity. They're just like actual monsters. And they just basically let them go on the let them out and let them attack all the rednecks. But that bit was crap. Did you find that crap? Yeah. There was no gore.
No, there was no gore. They kind of look like the arcade versions of the Space Invaders. It's a bit like more frothy at the mouth and drooly. But no, like people were just getting shot, and
it had so many endings. Did you notice it went all Lord of the Rings at the end? It just kept going.
Yeah, every time I thought it was about, because at this point, like, and again, I'm really sorry to everyone on our Facebook page who loved this film. I didn't see it in the 90s when it came out, so I don't have any nostalgic kind of attachment to this. I just didn't get into it. So I was at the point where it was like the first ending, and I'm like, oh, thank God, yes, ending. And then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, and it's going again. And again. Up.
Yeah.
And
fade in,
they're
fade
traveling
out.
on the wind.
Yeah.
Right.
It Lord of the Rings me. Like, so as I found the film quite disappointing, but the book is great, but I found the book disappointing. What did you give it?
So I gave it a G, good for its time, but hasn't held up. I also gave it a W for whatever. So I do apologize.
I gave it a G as well. So
I mean, I really like Decker's character, and I like the fact that David Cronenberg wrote the script for The Naked Lunch in his spare time while he was acting in this film. That was fantastic. I would have loved to have seen a film where they delved more into Decker and his obsession, because he became obsessed with Midian. I would have loved to have seen that.
Do you know, this would go really well and work really well as a TV show. Like,
to be honest, I thought the same thing.
Yeah, it would, like, you know, you could develop like Dr. Decker's character and his alter ego with his mask. That could be a whole thing. You could develop Midian as a place that you care about. You know, characters that you care about. And so when stuff happens, it works better for itself. It had a prophecy, you know, it had that whole thing going for it, so you could always do that. But yeah. I just think, yeah. Let's move on.
I agree. Yeah.
Let's move.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
It was just good for its time, but it hasn't held up. People remember stuff. And like I said, some people like different films, and that's fine. Just us two felt the same. But yeah, you gave it a W as well. What's my W sound?
Yeah, it was a word.
Oh yeah, that was my W sound. Okay, so From Beyond, 1986 was the next one. Yes. Directed by Stuart Gordon, who did The Reanimator, as we all know and love. Do you like The Reanimator, Jen?
I do, and you know, I have tried to watch it because I haven't seen it for a number of years. I sat down and I've tried to watch it on 3 separate occasions, and I basically get to about the same point in the film, and something happens, I have to turn it off and come back to it later, and I never do. So we'll have to make it an episode, so I have to sit down and watch it.
Ooh, maybe. Have you picked your movies for this week?
I have.
Oh, okay, so we can't do it this week.
Yeah.
Okay, so, you can take the lead on this one.
Sure. So, again, directed by Stuart Gordon, starring Barbara Crampton. She was also in The Reanimator and Shopping Mall. Jeffrey Combs, who was also in The Reanimator. He was in the 1999 House on Haunted Hill. He's had a fantastic career being in horror films and cult films. Ted Sorrell, who was in Basket Case 2. And Ken Foree, I apologise if I pronounced that wrong, who was in the original Dawn of the Dead and is now in most of Rob Zombie's films.
So that is a pretty star-studded cast for a horror film.
It's a great cast. He's just this big kind of hulking black guy who is just fantastic and spends a lot of the time of this film in some orange underwear.
Were they orange, or was this a lighting orange? I reckon they could have been whiteys.
Maybe.
Whitey dickies. But
anyway. So humans are such easy prey. A group of scientists have developed the Resonator, a machine which allows whoever is within range to see beyond normal perceptible reality. But when the experiment succeeds, they are immediately attacked by terrible life forms.
It was very immediate, wasn't it? As soon as he create, so the doctor is, the opening scene is him like with a whole bunch of cool computers in an attic. Is it the attic, the top part?
Yeah.
In an attic. And you know, with this resonator in there, he turns it on, and basically a catfish, a floating catfish, comes out and just bites his face. Straight away, like almost comedy, just like a big electric eel just bites his face off. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's really bad that scene reminded me of Batman Forever, where the Riddler has developed his little thing that you jet onto someone's head and you can see things. There's a scene that does a very similar thing. That movie's garbage, by the way. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, and so he the resonator works. He runs downstairs to tell the what was the doctor's name? Doctor what's his name? Pretorius.
Pretorius.
So
Yes.
for some reason he lives with Doctor Pretorius. So two doctors living together. So it's like he's the protege of Doctor Pretorius. He runs downstairs and goes, Doctor Pretorius, I got it working. Doctor Pretorius answers his bedroom door with no shirt on, straight up. Like this is the first time you've seen this actor. He's this overly set. What?
They're just a couple of bachelors living their best life.
Yeah, right. He's this weird, overly sexualized old man. Like.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes up in, the resonator. And for some reason, the resonator, when you turn it on, it gets you fucking horny. Did you notice that?
Yeah. Yes.
Everyone just like starts to get all like, oh, fuck, can you feel that? It feels so good. Like, and like, it doesn't help as well that the resonator, for some reason, just emits like hot pink light everywhere constantly. So you got these pink rooms with monsters flying around while people are all getting like stiffies and shit underneath them. So straight away, I love this film.
I just like Bubba because so Kevin Forey's character is called Bubba. And then just the next day they're sitting down and he's like, okay, but why did I get a boner? I'm like, okay, we're just straight into the point now, guys.
Yeah, he basically just says, why did I get a boner? So Bubba's character, does he live with them or does he just come in to help them as they're resonating?
Yeah, so
I'm trying to remember.
What we probably should have said was Dr. Pretorius comes out, he's like affected by the machine, but the machine basically takes him over and he disappears. And
everyone's like, fuck.
So Jeffrey Combs, whose character Crawford, he's arrested and taken to a psych ward for like killing him.
Oh, that's right. But he gets arrested before they even go into the house. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
They just arrest him straight away without seeing anything. And it's just a neighbor calling up for a noise disturbance. The police rock up and arrest him out the front of the house for nothing. I was like, maybe you should have walked into the house first. And I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, so he's arrested. He's in a psych ward, which and then comes Barbara Crampton's character, Dr. Catherine McMichaels. So she comes and she talks to him, and he tells her what's happened. So he is then released into her custody so that they can go back to the house and check out what's happened.
Which I'm going to say is the most unlikeliness of scenarios. You're 100%. A wanted murder person, and a doctor comes and goes, let me release him into my custody. And they're like, okay.
Sure, no worries. And so Kevin Forey is basically there as the law. He's like, I am the law here. So he's kind of like the bodyguard to stop Jeffrey Combs' character from doing anything absolutely messed up and crazy. Okay, so Bubba is just their hired help in case. Yeah, cool. So it ends up being Dr. What's the doctor's name? The normal guy? Dr. McMichaels. Oh, Jeffrey Combs' character. Tillinghurst. So we got the doctor, we got male doctor, female doctor, and then Bubba as the bodyguard as our three characters. And Dr. Pretorius has disappeared into the resonator, but he reappears. Yes. Oh my! He does. Oh my! Does he reappear? Naked. in the shunting. Oh yeah. There's a lot of shunting happening. There's a lot of nakedness. So there's a lot of body manipulation, body gore. No, what do they call it? Body melt. Body horror. Yeah, it's body melt, body horror. That kind of thing. Which I kind of really enjoy for some weird reason. I think it's funny and weird and gross because you are always. In every body melt film, you're always guaranteed a lot of jelly and slime and shininess. Yes, I love it. I love it so much. And then Dr. Pretorius comes in naked, all fucked up and shit or whatever, and says the greatest line ever, touch me if it pleases you. While they're all standing there like, they're not sitting there like wanting to be with him. He's like appearing all like scared and he's, touch me if it pleases you. And I'm like, oh God, that's a... Yeah, it doesn't. I'm good. And then his face splits open and fucking shit hits the fan. He basically just turns into a beast, a beastly beast with tentacles. He's like the Thing from The Thing, like in the pinkest scene in the world. Yes. I thoroughly enjoyed the makeup effects, like the whole way through the film. I think even at one point, like Dr. Tillinghurst is downstairs and he's just standing there and just gets full blown like slapped in the face by this weird prosthetic tentacle thing.
Is that the worms? You mean?
Yeah, and I just completely lost my shit laughing. It was amazing.
Yeah, those giant worms were a bit out of. I was like, what? Worms? Okay, I'm down.
Yeah,
because then it made it amazing. Because Bubba runs in his jocks.
Yes,
like the jockiest budgie smugglers ever. Like, am I? Why do these people agree to these things?
Hey, he's probably got it, so he's gonna flaunt it. But one of the notes I made was Bubba fighting the worm is what 2020 needs right now. So
you reckon that was the best thing?
I think it was the most standout scene for me.
I reckon if Corona needs a mascot, it should be Bubba in jocks. It goes, the world needs you to fucking keep your shit together, and then just have him naked in budgie smugglers. It'll help the world. We know that. Yeah. But then there's bees.
So. Oh, not the bees.
Why were there bees?
So the machine's creating things.
Yeah, but why bees?
I don't know. I didn't know that bees would eat flesh.
Well, it's a common misconception in reality. Don't you know that bees commonly just eat people?
I didn't know, and now I'm terrified. So, yeah, poor Bubba. He gets the axe. But it looked so good. He's just basically this like skeleton of a man he actually looks like he's been eaten by little teeny tiny piranhas. And it's just him laying there.
Maybe they were tiny piranhas with wings, and they just appeared to be bees.
I'm okay with that. I would like to believe. Yeah.
And then we move into the part of the film where, like, Doctor, I can't remember all the doctors' names. The main guy, the young doctor, the protege, he decides to grow a fucking dick out of his head.
It's his pineal gland it's spewing forth great knowledge and something. I don't know what.
Which is very strange, because he starts off to be the protagonist, and he kind of turns into the antagonist halfway through the film, which is
he does.
And actually, I felt like, I'm all about pacing. I felt that really jilted the pacing of the film. Like, suddenly when he was like all about being the good guy, he suddenly, and now he is the bad guy, because at one stage the lady, she kind of went a bit bad as well. Like, it's just this sexual need that no one is good in. When it comes down to getting horny, everyone will fuck their mate over for a bit of tail, a bit of interdimensional tail.
I mean, there was like this whole BDSM sort of undertone to it, but they don't actually go into like a crazy huge amount of explanation. I basically just put this film down as being the personification of what I understand to be blue balls.
Yep, I reckon it's a blue ball. Yep, I like that.
There's a lot of sexual tension. Like, there's so much sexual tension you can cut it with a knife. And there's some 80s boobs.
Oh, there was. Yes.
There's no release. There's no climax to this film.
Well, there was a bit of a climax. I mean,
not the climax that you want.
So the main guy loses all his hair. He gets a pituitary gland, but his brain's pituitary gland bursts out of his forehead, giving like a third eye kind of vibe where he's like super smart. And then he goes on a rampage of sucking people's eyes out of their head.
That was so
for no fucking reason. Oh, there's also that scene as well, Dr. Crawford, where he's suddenly eating a whole bunch of organs of people. He just eats a person. There's no reason for that. He's supposed to be smart.
There was a lot of, like, don't get me wrong, like, it might sound like I'm ragging on this film. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed this film.
I loved it as well.
And would watch it again. But, yeah, it was, like, at one point he's just sort of, like, squat in the middle of a morgue eating some brains. And I'm like, why? Is there a reason?
Does there need to be? Okay. That's the real question.
Yeah, no, there is no need, and it's fine. So,
and then the end basically turns into the shunting. So it's just like a giant scene in the attic of like body melt, fucking shit going everywhere, crap everywhere. Is it a grenade that causes an explosion?
I think so.
There's some sort of explosion that ends, that vanquishes the evil. But the best part I liked is so the explosion happens. The lady doctor, she jumps out of the window and lands on the ground after the explosion. But it's okay. She's completely fine, apart from maybe a minor open compound spiral fracture of the knee that she gets. Like, her whole leg, and, like, she only jumps out of a window, and then the next shot she's got, like, an actual, like, her whole bone is sticking out of her leg. But she's fine. Like,
no, she's going to walk it off. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I reckon she'll be fine. But yeah, that compound spiral fracture, I was just like, holy shit!
That'll get you in the end.
Like what? It kind of. I mean, I was happy that it was in there because it was hilarious. But she only just jumped out of a window, or was it a real high window?
It was.
It was the attic, wasn't it?
I feel that she's jumped out of the attic, so that does make a lot of sense, medically speaking.
I think because it just looked like she was just because when they filmed it, just looked like she would have been jumping out of a normal window, like.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyhow, what did you give this?
So I gave it a C, a classic that everyone should watch.
Yeah, so did I. A classic. All right, so let's move on to, shall we move on to horror news? So every week, me and Jen take you through the horror news you need to know about. Welcome to horror news.
That's so good. You're getting better. I love it.
I don't know. I'm probably just going to start doing it normal from now on.
No,
normal, as in a normal werewolf. I'm trying to mix up the werewolfness of it every week, but I just think I'm going to find my werewolf and go with that. Okay.
Yeah. Search for your inner werewolf. So let us start. Scream Watch 2020, guys.
Scream Watch. I don't have a sound for that. I knew I said I would. Let's just use this sound.
And anything if you want to go from just a beginner to a pro, you need a montage.
That was the montage theme from Team America. Sure. I'm not going to use that from now on. Anyhow, that was just on my soundboard for some reason.
So, reported early on late last week. That makes so much sense. So it looks like The Boys star Jack Quaid is joining the cast of Scream.
Now, is he too old? I always envisioned Scream to be teenagers, hey?
It is teenagers. However, so I don't spend a lot of my time on the internet and on forums and being that kind of a person, but I'm part of a few different groups, and there's a lot of theories sort of starting to circulate as to who he could possibly be playing.
He could be Ghostface.
He could be Ghostface.
It's the only other kind of person there is, isn't it? Sometimes there's two Ghostface, though. There could be a cabal of Ghostface.
Ooh.
There you go. You heard it first here. Ghost cabal. Ghostface cabal.
So there's a lot of talk about him possibly being the younger brother of Stu.
Yeah, he looks like him.
He does. So that does make a lot of sense. But I guess he could end up just playing a really creepy teacher.
Yeah, he could just be anyone, you know what I mean? Like there has to be more than like 5 people in this film. He could just be a teacher, he could be a parent of like one of the younger kids, or he could be a cousin or an uncle, you know what I mean? Like it could be anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Arquette and Courtney Cox, they're getting pretty they're getting to the older end of the scale. They can't be the main characters anymore. We need to bring in a whole fresh team of teens, but also the teens need a couple of people slightly older than them to put them on their correct track. The rules, the rules.
Yes. But of course, Jack Quaid is, he was born in 92, so he is still quite young.
Oh, is he? How old does that make him? 92?
I'd say, 28? What year are we in? 2020? Yeah, he's 28.
Yeah, right. Oh, mate, that is very young. That's still way older than high school, though. Then again, it is America, and if I've learned anything from 90210, people go to high school till they're 40.
Well, this is true. If this was made in 1996, he would be playing one of the main characters.
He'd be too old.
He would be playing
he'd be too young.
A 17-year-old.
He'd be too young to play the 17-year-old. But yeah, what about The Boys? Have you watched The Boys?
So I haven't watched the second season. I know that's only just launched.
I've only watched the first season, which I fucking really liked. I didn't think I would because I'm I'm not the biggest Garth Ennis fan. Like, don't get me wrong, I loved Preacher when it came out, the original comic series, but I think it suffered from like it's not as relevant anymore, and there's a bit of like, you know, un-PC-ness in it that's a bit you know, cringy nowadays, which is fine, but at the time it needed that, and there was nothing like that in comics, so it's kind of cool that it was there. But I feel it's dated a bit. And then the TV show came along, and I really enjoyed that. I thought they did really well, took out all the stuff I didn't like, and they left the stuff in I did like, so that worked. And then The Boys came along, and I think The Boys... I never liked the comic. It was a bit too talky for me. It was pretentious. It was just Garth Ennis' hate of superheroes, you know, of the whole thing, which is fine. You don't have to like superheroes, but he just did it was very mean. You know what I mean? Like the characters, where the boys in this, like they are kind of mean, but they're not as mean as they were in the comic, if you know what I mean. But I enjoy his character as what's his name? Like he's Stewie. Or
yeah, it's Stewie.
Stewie, yeah, because originally his character in the comic, Stewie, is based on Simon Pegg in real life. But then Simon Pegg got too old by the time The Boys got made, and he played Stewie's dad, which I thought was kind of cool.
Sorry, it's Huey.
Huey. Huey. They're Huey.
Yep.
I thought they did, like, you know, the female really well. I thought they did it all. The bit where they like hit the Invisible Man with the car and how good those effects look and stuff. Great film. Yeah, I mean, great TV series.
I loved and hated the dolphin scene. That was tragic,
funny. Yeah, I found it a bit weird to watch that bit as well. I really found the scenes where the merman got his like gills fingered. I found that fucking gross. Like,
it was gross.
Well, but like, I was just like, oh god, like this is like. And I loved how it made me feel, because it is that whole thing of like being a male. This is how probably females feel a lot of the time when there's males want to do fucked up shit to them. Like,
well, that's true. And he was a bit of a scum. Well, he was a lot of a scumbag as well. So, you know, he got his comeuppance and...
You don't often get comeuppances. Like, the problem is in real life is people like that don't get their comeuppance or they don't learn. But yeah.
That's right.
Anyhow, let's not get into that. I like The Boys. It's a great TV show. It is not for the faint-hearted. It has some fucking brutal ideas and brutal scenes in it. As you can just see by this, the bloody disgusting article here, the shot from The Boys is just like fucking chaos. It's just you know.
Yeah, it's glorious. It's a bloody mess, and I love it.
Yeah, it's wicked. What do you think? Yeah. What do you think he's going to be in Scream?
I don't know. I quite enjoy this theory that he could be a relative of Stu, because Matthew Lillard has petitioned to be in the film. Nothing has been announced or stated that he will be anything to do with it. But hey, it's a nice little... I don't know if it's an obvious kind of thing if that's the case, but it'll be interesting to see who he's playing.
I reckon he's going to be the boss of the Ghostface cabal.
Of the Ghostface cabal. Yeah. That's fair.
It's a Scream Watch 2020 hit prediction. Ghostface cabal, not to be confused with like the Ghostface killer. It's different.
No, yeah.
As in the Wu-Tang Clan, not the Ghostface killer from Scream. Okay, it keeps confusing. Let's move on.
Okay. So Army of the Dead, Zack Snyder's Netflix zombie film, is getting a prequel and an animated series.
And this is weird that they announced this, because the Army of the Dead hasn't even come out yet.
No. So I feel that someone was involved in it and they booted them off and had to basically reshoot everything. I could also be thinking of something completely different. So
an animated zombie series. Now that hasn't been done, unless we look at like, you know, anime as in Japanese animation. There's stuff like that been done in there. But like as far as it goes with like adult cartoons that have been coming out, stuff like and most of it's been comedy. There hasn't been a lot of like just a full like long running zombie animated series. That's a new idea. I'll give him that.
Yeah, it's very interesting though, because the prequel is getting an anime series. So I don't think it's just going to be animated. I think it is going to be an anime.
Oh, anime as in Japanese animation or whatever. Did you want to read? So for those who don't know what Army of the Dead is, did you want to read that? There's like this thing about what it is. Can you see here in the article? A zombie plague. Do you want to read that one out?
Yes. So Army of... I keep wanting to say Army of Darkness. It's what it should be. So Army of the Dead, a zombie plague hits Vegas and they're able to contain the virus to the city. They build a wall out of shipping containers and then the city falls. 6 years later, one of the casino owners hires this group of zombie soldiers to go get his money that he left in a safe at the casino.
It's basically like Ocean's 11. Zombies.
Okay with it.
Well, are they, when it says here zombie soldiers, they'd be like zombie soldiers that fight zombies. They're not going to be zombies that are soldiers, are they?
Well, it depends on what kind of zombies they are. Are they trainable zombies?
I don't think so, because they'd just be zombies against zombies, and I'd be kind of nah.
Quite possibly. I don't know. I mean, yeah, Zack Snyder.
If you want to read into this small synopsis, the wall being built around, bit of a a homage to old Trump's wall, maybe.
Yes.
The zombie the apocalypse, the coronavirus kind of vibe to it. You know what I mean? Like, is it just playing on that kind of thing? And like, when did this get made? Because I've noticed that Army of the Dead is still in post-production at the moment on IMDb. Because I was like, why don't I know it? Why haven't I seen this come up in my Netflix? And I realized it's not out yet. It is very confusing, because you'd think if they announced a prequel that the first one will be out.
So there was something about this that I saw recently, is that they did have to do some reshoots. So that's probably what's keeping. And then, of course, as well, like coronavirus, that coronavirus shut down the Batman film. Robert Pattinson got COVID. They've shut down the film. The Chucky TV series is currently on hiatus because, again, coronavirus. So,
well, that wouldn't affect Chucky. He's a doll.
What? No, but all the humans that are around him, it might have some kind of effect.
That's true. You don't want to also, put yourself into the body of someone with coronavirus that's just about to die.
That's true. That would be very foolish of him.
Yeah, so maybe they should do one where he get corona tests all his victims first.
Sure.
Or they could have
just sit here. We'll be back to you in 48 hours.
Or he could just wait out the front of a COVID testing place, and then when he comes out, they go like, how'd you go? I don't have it. And then he can kill them or take over their body, possess them.
I mean, but that would first have to be that there would be testing facilities in America, because I don't think there's a lot of them.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, we got Zack Snyder. He's going to make, he's going to make a great looking zombie film clip. Which is basically, to me, what his films are. They're just giant film clips, which I find them entertaining. Yeah, but I'm really interested in this Army of the Dead. So Army of the Dead Las Vegas, that's the anime series. That's what it's called.
The prequel anime will be Army of the Dead Lost Vegas. So I'm guessing this will be how it all begins. So the 6 years prior to this happening. So it's going to be very interesting to see if it is an anime or if it is an animation, because anime tends to just go fucking balls to the wall when they do horror. Yeah.
Well, they do a different vibe of horror, don't they?
They do, and I think that's probably going to be the best way to do it, because I've seen a couple of animated horror movies being announced. I can't remember the name of one. Came out late last year. But it's never going to have that same vibe as anime horror.
Yeah.
It just hits you in a different spot.
I noticed that there's a film coming out, a horror film called Spiral. That's not an Uzumaki film, is it?
I don't think so, although they have been saying that they're going to be doing another live action version of it.
Yeah, because I've seen that in those fake posters that are coming out for Scream and stuff like that. In that bunch, there was one called Spiral and had the spiral on the wall, and I was like, ooh. And it was live action because there was a person in it. It wasn't like this. It wasn't like an Uzumaki animation or anything. And I was like, is they going to make it like an American version of Uzumaki? Because I'm like, it won't work.
It's going to fail.
It's going to be shit. Yeah. It's going to be shit.
Well, they did an anime, Junji Ito anime that was released last year, and it bombed so hard because he wasn't involved with the animation side of things. I think
they do that. They do that shit where, the GYO, when the anime of that, it's just like they 100% just put new characters as the main protagonists, and they weren't likable or anything. I'm like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just have the same characters as they still have the same scenes happening, but with different characters? And I'm like, why would you do that?
Well, I think So the problem, because I never watched it, because as soon as I saw it, I'm like, nah, you've got two little cutesy anime people in the front and then a shark in the background. Nah, I'm out. I don't want some weird romance story and then there's like the actual novel happening in the background. But if I like, it would be an R-rated kind of thing. Like you want to get the core of what Junji Ito is trying to portray. You want to do as much as that as possible, and you're not going to be able to do that in something that's going to be M or MA rated.
It's true. It's
So
I don't think as much as we've talked about it before. I think you love as well Junji Ito books and the stories and the comics. They're friggin' amazing, and for any horror fans out there, should like track down some Junji Ito stuff, preferably from Greenlight Comics, and and check him out. But every adaptation of his work has been rubbish. Every live action film, every like animation, everything that he hasn't done has just been the pits. And it's bad because like it's just going to pull people away from such good stories. And
it's because he's not involved. He needs to be involved because nobody can do what he does. He can. I don't think it would be a matter of like him just sitting in a room saying, "Oh, you need to do this." I think it needs to be hands on. Like he's got to be there. It's his essence.
Oh well,
Junji Ito, scary man. I love it.
We'll wait. We'll see what army of Zack Snyder's like, and hopefully it'll be okay. Like as I said, and you're the same as me. I got a bit burnt out by zombies a long time ago, so just another zombie film to me is just like maybe.
Too easy, guys. Think of something new.
Yeah, but you never know. But they might do it great. I still love certain zombie films. Like I love Day of the Dead. I love. I still got a weird love for World War Z for some reason, even though it's stupid. I think I just
love the book.
Yeah, I just like watching the zombies like all run over themselves, the big waves. There's like two scenes I like in the whole film. You know what I mean?
Fair. We watched Train to Busan the other night, and
That's a good film.
I love that film, and I was cooking dinner while we were watching it, and I completely forgot how it ends.
Yeah, I can't remember how it ends either.
Oh, it's just tragic, and I was just like, I'm not crying, you're crying.
Well, then what we watched recently, we watched I Am a Hero. We loved that Japanese zombie thing, and then we watched One Cut of the Dead, which is another zombie one. So
that's right.
Here's us saying we don't like zombie films, and all of us have these really good zombie films that we've loved recently. So maybe
have you noticed that they're all from Japan though?
Yeah, because they always think about that stuff differently.
It's true.
It's a different take on life as a whole, So, and as I always say before, which we're probably going to get into in a sec, zombie films are a manifestation of the climate and the change of real-world events that are happening at that time. Zombies represent the fears of what's happening at that time. And so Japan, people that live in Japan have a different way of living and a different way of thinking. So naturally their fears and their zombie films are going to have a different tone to them, and that's why they seem so unique.
Yeah.
Or some shit.
Yeah, definitely. No. This is very insightful. You are not wrong at all.
Let's move on to our next story.
Yes. So this isn't necessarily a story, but it was an editorial by Marcus Shorter that I read on Bloody Disgusting the other day. And it's a new decade, new rules. The pandemic gives horror a chance to rewrite the rules. And I thought this was a very interesting sort of article because, they're right. Like, we are in 2020 now. We're still, all our horror films are still playing on the rules that we've known, from the 80s, like even from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. It's still now, but considering that we are now living in a completely different age, like, technology-wise, we're in the midst of a global pandemic right now. Everyone is in, like, self-isolating. Things change, and now is the time that it's going to change.
That is true. But I also think that horror itself is kind of like, I'm not going to go on exact dates, but say we're working in decades here. So you got your 80s, your 90s, your 2000s, 2010s, and 20s now. I feel that each decade has its own set of rules. Like, so Scream as the main example, because they basically, they lay down the rules of the 90s slasher, the 90s horror. I think they might do 80s and 90s, maybe it's in 20-year gaps. But I think it's different now. And as I was saying before, it comes down to horror is supposed to be, you know, our fears and stuff like that. But as humanity goes on and changes, we change what we're afraid of. And especially in this year. So, yeah, the article goes on to read stuff about, you know, what is scary now. So people are like, we no longer are we afraid of, you know, the person that's going to try and break into our house and kill us. We're afraid of this virus, or the idea that we let these, like, you know, a small amount of people into our lives. We're only allowed to see from self-isolating our family and stuff like that. But also we're doing that at a risk, that we risk that those people could have coronavirus, so they could kill us. So basically, like, the people we trust now are becoming our closest people that we trust are becoming the things that we fear. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. No, that completely makes sense. So you imagine that we are now, I mean, America, for instance, is the only example, the best example. Melbourne as well, like, you know, their safe place, the safest place you can be right now is in your home, which means once your home is not safe anymore, then that's it.
Yeah, so I reckon there's going to be a lot of horrors coming out based on maybe a family member, you know, like the trope will be like someone you trust a lot turns on you. I reckon that might become the new thing, like, as in, you know, that small, close-knit community of people you 100% trust, but you never know. They could have the virus. They could be the one that kill you in the end. I reckon that is going to filter down into our fears and consequently our horror films.
Yeah. Definitely. And I mean, a lot of, there's been a lot of, like, made at home horror that's been happening this year. And I think one of the biggest ones that people are pushing is Host, which I've not watched yet. It's on Shudder, and it's about these girls who basically do, like, a Zoom party, and they do a seance in a Zoom party, and something is unleashed.
Well, that's is that very similar to, like, what was that one that was all shot on Skype? It was like Unfriended or whatever.
Yeah. So this is like the new normal for people. This is how we're interacting with each other and talking to each other. Like, you know, instead of having your weekly stitch and bitch, you're having to do it online over hosting services. Like us right now, like the whole 18 episodes we've done, we've never been in the same room together. That's
true. We've done this all via remote.
Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting to see. And I think one of the things that they say as well is to sort of take those tropes and throw them away. So how it feels to follow the rules and get nothing but an icy embrace in return.
Yeah, that is true. Also, as well, with, like, the idea of, like, this generation of people, like the found footage thing obviously came up. The found footage was the horror thing that was, you know, I reckon that's like the 2010s kind of thing. Like,
yeah, there was 99 with Blair Witch, and then it nothing again until Paranormal Activity. I mean, I'm sure there was, like, splatterings of stuff, but nothing I can really remember.
Yeah,
until Paranormal Activity hit.
But then they have, like, the rules in the found footage films is, like, you know, stuff like you have to, you know, explain why these people are filming. But in this day and age, man, with TikTok, with, you know, with Instagram and stuff like that, it's almost like there's no reason to explain why people are filming stuff. You know what I mean? Like doing found footage stuff, because it is the normacy now. Maybe the biggest horror films in the next 10 years are going to be, you know, the losing of views, or the losing of likes and stuff like that. Your likes disappear in your views. Your online online influence to people that are younger. That's more important to them than living and friends.
It's true.
But yeah, so I don't know if that's going to change. What are these new rules that the horror are going to write? It's going to be a very different thing. And as I said before, we've seen it in zombies. Zombies is a really good example of this, because zombies themselves, and through watching these zombie docos, I didn't realize this. Zombies as a concept change through the decades of what humanity is afraid of. Originally, you had like the dead walking, and then like it went into like Dawn of the Dead, where it was all about the consumerism and being like the shopping and the full consumerism stuff like that. Then it moved into like the faster moving zombies, which were more like pandemic based and stuff like that, and that was with with like the wars and stuff like that, chemical warfare and stuff like that. So and now it's like zombies. Really, I mean, I just did a very layman's term of that. There is a lot deeper versions of this, and it makes a lot more sense than I've said. I'm just doing it off the top of my head. But there is a lot of like, horror movies tell the tales of what humanity is afraid of at that time through the rules. So they're saying we're given a chance to rewrite the rules. Do you have any ideas of what the new rules could be? Like what are these new horror rules? These tropes? You remember the Scream ones? There's stuff like if you have sex you die. What would be a new one? Is it like if you?
Well, I mean that one is one of that's a reality now. If you have sex, you're gonna die. You need to know your corona people before you have sex with them. It is. But even just such a tricky one. Like I wouldn't even know where to begin now. Like, and I've been consuming a lot lately, and I couldn't even say. Like, I'd love to see.
Even looking at coronavirus as a thing, and like taking that out of the equation, like as a thing, as a whole of what humans are afraid of at the moment. Like, why are we having protests for lockdown and stuff like that? Like, because protests are from fear and stuff like that. What are they afraid of? They're afraid of their freedom being taken away. So that's the main thing people are afraid of at the moment. They're not allowed to leave their house. It's their freedom that we're talking about. We're not talking about a virus. We're talking about like maybe the idea that the new horror will be something along the lines of like you're just like your choices are taken away. Like you don't have a choice. Where stuff like Saw was all about making the correct choices. But maybe the new thing is going to be like choice and freedom as a concept and a whole is going to be the new horror. So how does that translate into being a horror film? It's something we can't work out now, but we'll see it in the changing of films. I mean, we look at but getting back to recent horror films like Ritual, that's the one I keep coming back to. That was definitely a different vibe on horror. That was almost like their freedom being taken away by having to look after their mother and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, and it was a very close family thing. And again, it was the thing of the mother, the person that she trusts the most, turning on them.
Yeah. I kind of feel that we're going to see a lot more of sort of Mist-like movies. So not necessarily The Mist, but more like small town turning against each other, small roommates turning against each other. The kind of like conspiracy, not necessarily conspiracy, but the mistrust and the growing paranoia kind of film.
The fear of the uneducated.
Yeah.
That's one of my fears. Like I'm always scared of the uneducated. I know that sounds like cocky, but like the people that the anti-vaxxers, the flat earthers, the stuff like that, like the crazy notions, there's that word for it, when you've already made up like your mind and you basically just find out facts that that make what you're thinking about more true. There's a word for it, and I can't remember what it is. It's Claire always says it to me that I do it.
Well, it's like the people that pick and choose what they want out of the Bible, to promote fear and control. Because once you've got the fear, you've got the control. So that's definitely something as well. But you're not wrong, because usually the loudest person in the room, the loud person, we saw it in The Mist. The loudest person in the room doing all the talking and generating all the fear is usually the dumbest fucking idiot in the room. But that's what happens when you're the loudest.
Fear. Mighty tool. Anyhow, so, like I said, this is a talking point. We're not going to work anything out. It's just like...
We have posted this on the Facebook page, so if you have any opinions, jump on. Let's have a conversation.
I did like on the Facebook page, one of our followers, Sam Cripps.
Yeah,
he mentioned about like how in that post he was like how he was talking to one of his younger customers when he was at work, and he mentioned how like after Poltergeist he was scared of TV static for a long time. because of that thing. And this person was young, and they're like, "What's TV static?" Because they're like, they had no idea that TV has ever done that. Because after static, remember, it used to go blue. There was that thing. And nowadays there is no TV. There is no losing of channels and stuff like that. They had no idea that static was a thing.
Yeah.
Isn't that just bonkers to think about these days? Like,
it is.
And then I said, I was, as a kid, I was always afraid of, when the TV channels end?
Yes.
Yeah, and you get that weird montage with like the national anthem and shit. That used to scare me as a kid, because I figured if television is over, the world has ended. But yeah, it's just another kind of, thing just to do with the times and stuff like that. But yeah, anyhow, we should probably work out what we're going to do for homework. Oh, you're writing it in right now. You're keeping it a secret from me.
I love a secret. So I, again, am doing a little bit of a theme for next week's episodes. I have chosen anthology movies.
Oh, yeah. So movies within movies.
Yes. So we shall be watching Creepshow.
Ooh, OG Creepshow.
OG Creepshow. We'll be watching Tales from the Dark Side movie. This is a first watch for me, so if it's really bad, I apologize in advance.
There's another really good one as well I'll bring up in a sec, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we'll also be watching Scare Package. So this is a new release film on Shudder. I've been keen to watch this one as well.
Scare Package? Like Care Package, but Scare Package.
Yeah, exactly.
Another one, a really good horror anthology, which I really loved, was Cat's Eye. Do you remember that? I've
not seen that one.
I think it's Stephen King. I'm not going to bring that up. But basically, it's a movie about this cat. It starts off, and it's got Drew. I think it's got Drew Barrymore in it. Yeah, it's a Stephen King book. It's a bunch of Stephen King, and it's basically about this cat. And there's 3 horror stories, but the cat is involved in all 3 of them. So the first one is about a kid, with the cat, and then the cat, like the movie ends and the cat leaves, and then it walks into the next story, and it kind of, so there's like the Creepshow guy, it's this cat that's but walks in through all the stories. It's very cool. You got like Drew Barrymore in there. You got a whole bunch of really good, like you got James Wood, him from like Videodrome. And stuff. Yeah, you got Robert Hayes is in it. You got a whole bunch of like really good actors, but that's a really good horror anthology. But like, it's all one story, but it's 3 stories. It's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, if one of these is terrible, we'll swap it out for the other.
No. I'm just saying. I just wanted to mention that one because it's one I discovered recently again, because I'd always seen the cover as a kid, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to give that a watch while I'm going through my stage. I was going through a Cronenberg stage, and it had what's his name in it out of Videodrome, so I just went from there. Anyhow.
Why not? Everyone loves James Woods.
Nice. Housekeeping.
So, yeah. Okay. So you've been listening to TerrorVision Horror Podcast with Dan and Jennifer. We are a podcast that is on all streaming services, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, wherever good podcasts can be found. We are also available on YouTube. Dan has created a new cool video for you to watch while you're listening to us chat away.
Yeah, I got a new background. It's all budget as shit.
I love it. So on any of these streaming services, please leave us a star rating, leave us a comment, like us, follow us, subscribe to us, all of the things. We are also available on Instagram at TerrorVision Pod. We also have Facebook, as you know. Again, TerrorVision Pod. You can email us, terrorvisionpod@gmail.com. Let us know what you want us to watch, what you want us to discuss. If you have an opinion, if you don't have an opinion, just have a chat. Email us.
It'd be great. And you can also
do it.
You can also check out me over on Hack the Dino Gaming, where you can catch us live over on Twitch every second Friday at 7 p.m. for casual hangs, chats about games, nerdism, and stupidity. It's basically a live show it's basically the Hey Hey It's Saturday of gaming, if you remember that, like with Daryl Summers. We've changed up our format now. It's a lot looser. It's a lot more fun. We do live play games live together. But it's all on Friday night. It's all like a giant comedy 2-hour live stream over on Twitch. So check it out. It's this Friday, so at 7 p.m. So if you want to tune into that'd be fucking awesome. As in, it's every second Friday. But yeah, we've moved away from like YouTube. We're more doing the Twitch now and the fun and the Patreon. So there's a whole bunch of Patreon
Cool.
tiers you can get where you get drawn by me and all stuff like that. People have already started doing it, and it's very good. And signing off,
Cool.
and until next week, may all your dreams be nightmares.